Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Enjoy Vintage Sustainable Fashion podcasts and events. So today, second. So as I said, welcome to the second episode of the podcast series, The Rise of the Global South, produced by Enjoy Vintage Sustainable Fashion, an independent and self-funded platform free from any political or commercial association. I am Iri, your host for today, and the theme of this episode will be the hypocrisy of luxury fashion brands. Our working mission is to gather verified information based on investigative reports uncovering unsettling truth about the unethical practices of luxury brands within the fashion and textile industry. Firstly, we should outline that the root of the problem is overproduction. An estimated 100 billion items are produced by fashion designers each year, with just 1% being crafted from recyclable materials. An astonishing remaining 99% find their way to landfills. This pattern of pollution repeats during manufacturing and disposal stages, impacting mainly Global South regions. Despite these revelations, luxury brands prioritize bridging the gap between CSR, corporate social responsibility, and their brand image. This is achieved through the staggering support of a corrupted system, a well-orchestrated plan that manipulates online media, social influencers, the online press, using a false narrative in order to mask the brand's unethical practices. The core hypocrisy of luxury brands and fashion designers lies in the exploitation of cheap labor and the uncontrolled pollution in developing nations, despite their politically correct narrative. These fashion giants have zero scruples when the decision comes between savings on their production costs versus the well-being of workers subjected to extremely dangerous working conditions, exposed to toxic chemicals, all while these brands maintain a facade of ethical production through elaborate media campaigns, deceiving their customers and core audience. It is imperative to halt this detrimental cycle by exposing the environmental degradation and human rights violations perpetuated by these fashion royalties. Profiting at the expense of vulnerable populations is not an option anymore, as regions like Africa, India, Bangladesh, and China have suffered enough. Our duty is to unmask a corrupt system that prioritizes foreign interest over the well-being of local communities. Together, we can strive for a more ethical, sustainable industry that respects both the planet and its people. So thank you very much for being here today. I just want to introduce now this, actually we have four incredible women today which are making waves in the world of sustainable fashion. We have Dr. Liane Thiel-Rutkowski, the founder of the Impact Fashion Hub. Liane is a respected impact fashion strategist worldwide and a renowned peer-reviewed contributing author. Through her work at the Impact Fashion Hub, she collaborates with indigenous leaders, legislators, and international institutions to fight against obsolete and corrupted systems, still enabling neocolonial practices in the fashion industry. Then we have another amazing, incredible lady, Tune Skardal Tobiasen. Tune is a distinguished journalist and author. She held the prestigious role of editor-in-chief at Norway's prominent fashion magazine for many years. Later on, she has been transitioning into a new chapter and co-founded NICE Fashion, Nordic Initiative Clean and Ethical, promoting sustainability and ethical practices in the industry. Tune also engaged in writing for the Norwegian National Encyclopedia on the textile sector and plays a pivotal role in Fibershed Norway. Her dedication to sustainable fashion, ethical entrepreneurship, and empowering communities shines through her multifaceted contribution to the industry. And then we have our lovely Sonal Jain-Baid. She's a true pioneer in sustainable fashion, social entrepreneurship, and advocate for ethical industry practices. Sonal is a visionary leader with over 20 years of experience, and she has dedicated her life to empowering local communities, working exclusively with local artisans, and she's the founder of this beautiful brand, which is called Mayu, the first sustainable underwear brand in India, made from 100 organic cotton and non-toxic dye. Also, Tune will introduce her prestigious guests. So we have a special guest and commentator today, Professor Maria Engstrom Fuentes. So I'm very, very happy to introduce you today, and I'm sure Tune will give you a perfect introduction later on. So let's start with our first speaker, our major supporter and incredible contributors to our cause. Please welcome Dr. Leanne Thiel-Rutkowski. She will chair a panel focusing on the hypocrisy of luxury fashion brands. Please welcome Leanne. Leanne, we can't hear you. Can you switch on the microphone, please?
There we go.
Oh, sorry, before, this is for all our guests. Before Leanne will start, I will kindly invite you to switch off your microphones. You can keep your camera on, but just please, if you can switch off the microphone. Thank you very much. Leanne.
Thank you, and good morning. And good morning, Michael. I hope you feel better. Good Lord. And Erie, thank you so much for that warm welcome, as always, and for hosting this vital conversation. It's truly an honor to be here today, as always. Basically here, I'll be diving into what we discussed, the hypocrisy of luxury fashion brands. It's a topic that strikes at the heart of the industry's contradictions. While many luxury houses do promote sustainability, ethics, and compassion, their practices often tell another story. And as I have said and read about for years, one of unchecked consumption, exploitive supply chains, and selective transparency. And my goal is not to condemn. That is not it at all, because we love to look good. We love fashion. We love to strut our stuff. But basically, it's to simply expose the duality of how branding, image, and moral posturing have become as valuable as the garments themselves, and what that means for culture, equity, and the planet. I'm excited to unpack these few layers today and invite listeners or whoever to question not just what we wear, but what we believe when we buy. And I'll just dig into this because I know we're short on time. I'm never at a loss for words.
No, Leanne. I mean, just if we can stick, to the time, and then after everyone to give space to all the panelists, and then you have all the time that you will all the time in the world.
I think it's the French and Norwegian in me. If you see steam starting to come out of my ears, just ignore me. Basically, I'm going to start with the illusion. And I sometimes think, we say to people, don't they understand English? Don't they understand what's the story? So I've created terms out of, basic language, Latin, okay? So ignis fatuus, and I am actually introducing that, and it might sound funny, but it's not funny. Ignis fatuus, the illusion of sustainable fashion. Fashion elites, the fashions elite have built an empire not upon innovation or ethics, but upon illusion. A luminous mirage that burns brightest where truth is most obscured. The global fashion economy, controlled by a handful of imperial figures, which starts with people like Bernard Arnault, who is actually one of the richest men in the world, LVMH, Anna Wintour, Condé Nast, and she is no longer editor at Vogue, but actually she's more powerful now because she has, greater strength, running the show at Condé Nast. And their cultural disciples such as Stella McCartney and Livia Firth have mastered the art of moral marketing. They have rebranded privilege as purpose and transformed sustainability into sometimes spectacle. And I'm not picking on them, and God bless them. They're all millionaires, or they've all been very successful in what they've done. But the other thing is, everything that I'm telling you today has been researched and documented. So it's not something that I'm just pulling out of hot air. The imperial structure, Bernard Arnault, now the wealthiest man in the world, presides over LVMH, a conglomerate whose power extends far beyond luxury goods into media, culture, and sustainability narrative control. Anna Wintour, dubbed the Fashion Empress, wields Vogue as an ideological arm of this empire, anointing brands as ethical or visionary through editorial decree rather than verified impact. Stella McCartney, long promoted as the conscience of luxury, has partnered with LVMH in 2019 to align her sustainable label with Arnault's empire, a contradiction that exposes the industry's foundational hypocrisy. The circle of moral endorsement continues. Meanwhile, McCartney's, and as I said in the beginning, I'm just laying out the facts. And it's important to really note this because we see these beautiful runways, and you see by the hour tons and tons and tons of secondhand clothing getting dumped into the global south. So it's watch what one hand is doing, not what the other. The circle of moral endorsement. Meanwhile, McCartney's close ally, Livia Firth, founder of EcoAge and the Green Carpet Challenge, has become sustainability's public confessor and curator. Yet her campaigns are largely financed by the same luxury houses whose production cycles rely on overconsumption, carbon-intensive logistics, and unregulated textile waste systems. The self-referential ecosystem creates a closed loop of validation. McCartney designs, Firth certifies, Wintour sanctifies, and Arnault funds. Together, they define what the world is told to believe is sustainable fashion. So, in terms of ignis fatuus, which means the definition basically is the false light, or fool's fire, describes the phosphorescent glow over swamps that lead travelers astray. It's a beautiful read if you dig into it. It's the perfect metaphor for the sustainability myth propagated by the fashion elite. The glow of eco collections, circular business models, and green carpets distracts from the systemic absence of any enforceable scientific standard for sustainability in fashion. No international legal definition exists. No uniform environmental threshold, labor metric, or accountability framework governs the use of the term sustainable fashion. It remains a marketing construct, a label bestowed through public relations partnerships, not performance audits. In the end, the empire's green light is not illumination, it is misdirection. It's the shimmer of ignis fatuus, a symbolic fire leading both consumers and policymakers deeper into the marshlands of deception. I don't want to become too much of a drama queen here, but basically, until global standards, third-party certification, and equitable global South representation, huge, are enforced, fashion sustainability will remain precisely what it was designed to be, an aesthetic illusion for elite reassurance. And I know that sounds really harsh, but what is really harsh is seeing the repercussions that go on a daily basis in the global South. And that could be another day of talking. So basically, you throw terms around loosely, but what do they really mean? And I started thinking about it. And I said, basically, we should, for our discussion today, elitism refers to the closed system of cultural, economic, and ideological dominance maintained by a small network of powerful individuals who control narrative, access, and maintain a small network of powerful individuals, and creating access or no access to with moral authority under the guise of expertise or virtue. Within sustainable fashion, elitism manifests as a feedback loop in which those responsible for the industry's exploitation are simultaneously celebrated as its saviors. I think I'm going to be running late on time, but what I want to do now is jump to explaining what I mean. And I basically will go through and start building a little bit of the framework that I've established in the form of beneficiaries of the sustainable fashion illusion, Anna Wintour, Vogue's high priestess of green capital. And I don't use those two terms loosely. If you all remember the September issue documentary that was done on Anna Wintour, and I think and they refer to her as all of these things, so it's not something that I'm just pulling out of nowhere. This is a label that she probably enjoys because she has her hand on everything that walks out of that, the Vogue, the archives of the Vogue, or the doors of the Vogue empire. And I remember Grace Coddington, who was her creative director for Vogue for many, many years, gorgeous British model, gorgeous, and she's just an amazing creative. And it was like nothing happened. She threw something on the counter in the documentary, and she says, "Oh, Anna didn't really go for this. It was." And somebody said, "Well, how much did that cost you?" She goes, "It was only $50,000. So you think about it, it's behind the scenes, and I'm not questioning. I love capitalism. People need to put food on their table, but it's in some ways when you go behind the scenes like that, it's just, I don't know, I find it a little disturbing, based on what it's built on. So as editor-in-chief of Vogue and chief content officer of Condé Nast, Anna Wintour presides over fashion's moral stage. Has anybody here tried to get tickets to the Met Gala? I rest my case. Her sustainability issues and Met Gala themes reframe elite indulgence as ethical virtue, while editorial campaigns champion green couture. Vogue's advertising revenue continues to depend on fast fashion conglomerates, luxury overproduction, and fossil-derived synthetics. Her platform legitimizes moral elitism, the transformation of ecological responsibility into social currency. Bernard now. As a matter of fact, I'm still trying to get an interview with him for the book that I'm working on, so I'll let everybody know how that goes. It's not going well right now. let's see, Bernard, the capitalist custodian of conscious luxury. Chairman of LVMH, Arnault transformed sustainability into a shareholder-friendly marketing arm. Through partnerships with designers such as Stella, LVMH positioned eco-luxury as a growth sector while maintaining record production levels. His empire finances sustainability panels, carbon neutral campaigns, and positive luxury forums that reinforce the illusion of reform while preserving the oligarchic control. Stella McCartney, who I label the poster child of ethical contradiction. Promoted as the moral face of luxury, Stella's brand thrives on elite validation and the halo of sustainability. Despite her branding as vegan and ethical, her 2016 supply chain scandal revealed wool sourced from operations accused of cruelty, and her subsequent LVMH partnership aligned her work with one of the world's largest polluters. And basically, if you recall, that was the 2016 issue where Patagonia and Stella McCartney were both using the same wool supply chain. I don't want to go into the gory detail of what was going on. But it's an oh my bad moment, and they move on. Actually, they went back to using the same supply chain, saying that it was better now, but who said so? I mean, what third-party certifications? Livia Firth, the ethics entrepreneur, founder of EcoAge and the Green Carpet Challenge. Firth monetized sustainability as media spectacle. Her consultancy partners with brands such as Gucci, Chopard, and Marks and Spencer, all implicated in opaque supply chain practices, positioning herself as fashion's conscience broker. In her campaigns blend activism with luxury diplomacy, transforming ethical concern into branding capital. And here again, in 2016, her eco edits or green edits that she was partnered with Marks and Spencer at the same time when Marks and Spencer was outed by the BBC for child labor issues during the war in Syria. They were taking children on trains to Turkey and putting them to work in sewing factories, and Marks and Spencer, oh my bad moment, at the same time that Livia was just getting all her fluff going. So what's the point? Kate Fletcher, the academic arbiter of slow fashion, regarded as the academic pioneer of slow fashion, Kate Fletcher's scholarship has been underwritten by elite networks of funding, university endowments, and sustainability think tanks that commodify critique. Her well-publicized sailing expeditions to reflect on the meaning of sustainability have come to symbolize the privileged detachment embedded in academia's role in fashion's moral economy. While her writing advances critical theory, the performance aesthetic of thinking sustainably at sea underscores the distance between research privilege and real-world labor exploitation. How am I doing for time?
You're okay. You have roughly 5 minutes.
That's not enough. I need enough. No, I'm just kidding. So basically, I'm just laying out the facts as I was, going through, thinking about all this, and, even just things like the supply chain issues. And, I actually could go on, but I end up always, over planning. Celebrity ambassadors, actors, models, influencers, from Emma Watson to Gisele Bündchen, have monetized the sustainability narrative through brand ambassadorships and eco-capsule collaborations. These efforts turn sustainability into performative empathy, moral spectacle packaged as aspiration. And basically divorced from the systems of exploitations it claims to reform. And, just laying the cards on the table, I'm not saying these are bad people. I'm not saying they're good people. This is just the way it is. And then we have people like Sonal, we have, indigenous creatives around the world that are completely minimized because they're not, cool. And it's not sustainable financially. So the sustainable fashion marketing tool to the elites it has become very profitable. And like I said, I'm not picking on anybody. These are all facts. It's all documented. It's just, it is what it is.
Yes, absolutely, Lian. You're just stating the facts, of course, and this is the reality surrounding this industry. I don't know if anyone of the panelists has any questions for Lian or wants to interact with Lian before we go forward. We go to our Lian. Would you like to add anything else?
In terms of one more Latin concept that I wanted to throw out there. So ignis fatuus is one aspect of it, right? It's like a pipe dream. It is what it is. And then also, I would also like to call out the concept of fabrica veritatis. It's the architecture of making and meaning, which is the Latin word fabrica originates from faber, meaning craftsman or artisan, and embodies both the act of the art creation. In classical usage, fabrica refers to the workshop or system production, the place where matter and mastery converge. By the Renaissance, sorry about that. The term evolved into a metaphor for structure, discipline, and the deliberate construction of knowledge, most notably, I'm gonna turn this off. Sorry about that. My father's in the hospital. It was somebody just calling. Yeah, he's doing fine. I just lost my train of thought. Basically, Fabrica Veritatis is it's truth in making. And I would like to see truth in making start, being established in or infused in the foundations of the concept of sustainable fashion. And, like I said, the elite have the financing and they can suppress it, issues. Even, I don't know why, but it just is so bothersome. The 2016 incident with Marks and Spencer. I mean, this was horrific. And this is not, and I'm sure that this happens in other supply chains, but it gets to the point where the elites they can make money ethically.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to this? What do you say to this? That's all I'm saying. There's no reason. And it's embarrassing. For the sake of the almighty dollar, people can, Sonal's not living in a 200-room mansion, but she's doing great because she's really going through this. If you could take what she's doing and bottle it and make this the law of the land, we would all be just fine. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Lian.
It's just, and sorry about the phone call. Everybody's got something.
No.
But
don't worry.
It just,
we appreciate.
Yeah, and so basically that's it. It's just it's just the way it is. And it really is irritating to me to see, the podcasts, the fashion shows, the statements, and even the Met Gala. And think about it, fashion has always been very controversial. It was involved in the Civil War in the United States. It was involved in just so many things. People in the 17th century used to get arrested on the streets of London for wearing cotton because, there was a huge issue with the whole import-export, issue going on there. So, it's always been controversial, but it's getting to the point, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of the dump trucks full of secondhand clothes, ladies.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Thank you. Hey, Michael.
Michael,
Hey, I just want to add that Sonal, I think, is very cool, and her project is fantastic. So I'm sure, Leanne, you didn't mean to diss her. You were very proud of her work. Also to add that Livia Firth disassociated herself, or rather was eliminated from EcoAge. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's now a different group of people. So
yeah,
they are still involved in the green carpet. No information I could share on what they're doing and how well they're doing, but she moved out of that role. Although she remains a figure, as Leanne has said, in the sustainability fashion debate. That's all.
Thank you, Michael. We wish you
always
well.
the words of wisdom. The words of wisdom.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to hear from Michael. I'm so pleased he's here with us, and thank you to Leanne for this powerful panel and introduction. It's time now to give space and the panel to Tune Skardal Tobiasen. Tune, she's discussing, the title of our podcast is focusing on discussing if local fashion is a way forward and if it is feasible within a capitalist economy. Joining the discussion with Tune today, I'm so honored to have Professor Maria Enstrom Fuentes. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here. So please.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. I would just like to add to Michael's comment about Livia Firth that actually EcoAge was stolen from her. It was a very unhappy ending because somebody stole all the funding for EcoAge. So it wasn't her choice to leave. But I would also add that I am speaking from a position of privilege, and I'm not undermining that in any way. My father was a poor farmer's son, but he became an academic and got a scholarship to go to Harvard. And so I'm an offspring of that, and thus a very privileged person who has to be thankful every day for being in the position that I'm in. And I'm a journalist and a writer and an editor. And as mentioned, I used to be an editor-in-chief of a fashion magazine that competed with the Condé Nast magazines in many ways. And so I've been in that world. I've been sitting on front rows at fashion shows in Paris and New York. So I've been very much part of that world. But I've worked in the field of textiles and sustainability since around 2007. So it's about 18 years all in all. I'm currently also on the board of Union of Concerned Researchers in Fashion, which was actually started by Kate Fletcher to bring forward the voices of the Global South. So she has also used her privileged position. She actually comes from a working class background herself, but became an academic and has been the pioneer in the sustainability field and was the founder of Union of Concerned Researchers in Fashion, together with other distinguished academics, to bring forward the voices from the Global South. And today, I'd like to follow up on the book Local, Slow and Sustainable Fashion, Wool as a Fabric for Change, which I co-edited with Professor Ingunn Grimstad Klepp at Oslo Metropolitan University. And some of the themes that were brought forward there. And we have a current situation which has been described by Dr. Leanne. And we have an ecological crisis, which is caused by massive overproduction of apparel. But the main focus from authorities, policymakers, and industry itself has been small, incremental, product-related improvements rather than a systemic approach that addresses the root cause. So everyone has been focusing on the symptoms. And I think it's about time that we look at systemic solutions instead. So more localized use of resources has emerged as one of the few alternatives to the destructive globalized fashion industry, where even luxury brands produce as cheaply as they can and have become part of the same fast fashion machinery that is choking our world. Can local fibers, materials, and production be a viable alternative to the globalized monocultural growth-driven capitalist textile system, where competition and extractive thinking is a core business model? This is my question. So with me, I have Maria Ernström Fuentes, who's associate professor at Hanken Business School in Finland, who also co-authored a chapter in Local, Slow and Sustainable Fashion, Wool as a Fabric for Change, which was called Rethinking the Wool Economy. Her research focuses on transformative alternatives that emerge from the interaction of people, places, and non-humans in different forms of grassroots organizations, building sustainability from below, in particular in the sectors of food and textile fibers. She also does critical research on the politics of CSR, particularly in relation to different forms of extractivism and the forestry sector in South America. So there is an historic backdrop, which you, Maria, can say something more about when I give the word to you. But we all know that the Industrial Revolution started with cotton. And as we all know, slave labor. When the Civil War in the US stopped cotton exports, we saw the wool industry jump in, for example, in Norway, and it was mainly religious men and women from the so-called Haugianer movement who started up here in Norway, with a strong focus on the local community, local resources, local crafts, and frugality, not on profits or quick riches. That's very important. They did, however, even at the end of the 19th century, struggle with the competition of cheap imports and overproduction in other markets, though these markets were actually in Europe, not the Far East back then, because the Far East, what they delivered to Europe was, of course, exotic materials such as silk, and they were rare and expensive exports, and therefore couldn't flood the market in the same way that the textiles produced in other countries in Europe. But what has happened to clothes pricing and the clothing volumes after China joined the World Trade Organization? After the multi-fiber agreement was suspended and textiles became increasingly cheaper and mass-produced around the turn of the millennia. Is it a prerequisite for more local industry based on better use of local resources that tariffs and quotas are reintroduced? We all have heard that Trump has been implementing this to great protests from China and other countries with cheap labor. So I'd like to give the word to you, Maria. What are your thoughts around this?
Yes, I think it's really important to put this historic perspective into the discussion on sustainable fashion. It's often not there, so thank you for bringing it up, Tone. And it's something that actually hit me talking to my student in a class, realizing that they don't understand what happened after 2001 because they were so young. I happened to be researching foreign direct investment around that time as a young master's student at the Economic Commission of Latin America. I had the privilege, I would say now, to study the social consequences of the maquilas in the Caribbean and in Mexico. And at that point, it was discussed what will happen when China joins. And I only now, it's been a few years since we wrote this book chapter in your book, and I've only now retaken this with the trade wars, started to make the connections myself, understanding that the mass consumption of clothing that we have and the problem we have with the waste that comes from it has partly to do with this, these trade regulations that were set up and that overflow the market in the way that they do. It's one of the reasons. But what was your exactly the question? I don't think we have explored this enough, and that's what I think it's so important to think through these historic stages. How did we end up here? Because of course, slavery is one reason that it was made possible. Colonialism is another one. The access to cheap land in many places. I mean, without Australia giving access to sheep, there wouldn't be even a wool industry. We would be having an infrastructure that would be, could I say, a little bit less energy intensive and maybe a little bit more sensible if that access to land in colonies hadn't been made available to the imperial powers.
No, I was thinking that we really need to discuss how policy, including tariffs and quotas, potentially can affect, for example, overproduction.
Yeah, so they can affect, and maybe that could be like the positive news of all of these trade wars. But I don't know if that is the conversation we really want to have, because if we put back the tariffs, if we, what we will see is what was going on already before China came into with the WTO agreement. There was already a race to the bottom. I was studying that. I was already studying how the maquilas in Caribbean and in Mexico were set up in a way that people didn't have time to go to the bathroom. It was not a nice working environment then, and it has never been a nice working environment for anyone working in these factories. They have always been exploitative, but maybe not as hyper exploitative in the sense that the structures of a building doesn't hold and people die because it's so cheaply produced, the whole system. So we are just like hyper creating it. And if we put on tariffs, yes, it will probably slow it down a little bit. There will be a trade war somewhere, but it will also most probably go to another place where it's still possible to make a trade deal, and you will then situate the cheap labor, the cheap land resources, access to those in another country that is desperate to grow. So I don't think that the tariffs will solve it, because as long as we have this growth model, which I think we will come to a little bit later, we will not get rid of the problem. And also it raises prices both for the consumers and the producers, also those that want to do a good job. They will have even harder time to compete because they cannot go into these cheap countries. So I think it's really good to look at the history and what happened to kind of make the younger generations aware about how this happened, and to make them take a little bit of responsibility also for their actions today, because they don't know what the garment sector and our streets and our way of dressing used to look like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And I think already understanding that, you understand that there is something seriously wrong with where we are heading. And we need to have this conversation with the young generation. that is buying directly online through very cheap clothes that do not last for more than, even if they last for one wear time. So that's really important. What we really need is not tariffs and trade wars. We don't need any kind of war, I think. We need deeper discussions on what kind of local do we want, what is a sustainable local industry, and how do we invest in the lost skills and infrastructures all over the world so we can bring it back? How do we deal with all of the workers that have been locked into this kind of factory? They are dependent on that salary. They are bringing home money still to their families. How do we deal with that if we bring all this home? And how do we create circular and regenerative production models that do not rely on extractivism? Because the way that we are using material today, we are bound to extract and destroy landscapes, ecosystems, biodiversity, waters, everything that we depend on, all humans and all life on this earth depend on. And so what I really think that we need is a deep debate on the technical issues and the issue of switching from a logic of extractivism towards a logic of regeneration. That requires that we also shift away from growth. It's not possible with a linear growth model to try to make a regenerative model. And this, what I just said, the young generation and the policy needs to go hand in hand. We need a shift in understanding what kind of clothes should we wear and what is sensible in terms of durability of clothing. So I think that we need to go from thinking of a growth economy that goes through cheap everything, destruction of everything, towards a system, an economic system. We need to rebuild an economic system if it did ever exist. It's a long time ago. It has existed locally. I think it still exists in some cases. We need a system of care, and I've written about multi-species care. So it means that we also need to make sure that our non-human friends can do their work in the ecology in such a way that it restores these ecosystems and all of the different life forms that are needed on this planet. And that requires that the final product must be quality and last for much longer than whatever these cheap imports can do.
I would like to mention too that Consumption Research Norway has recently published 2 papers that I can put in the chat afterwards. The main author is Irene Maldini, who's from South America, but she lives in Europe now. And she's been studying mainly this idea around if durability can drive a degrowth, and that we actually put a stop to overconsumption, and the push and the pull elements here. And of course, with the very intensive marketing that is financing Vogue and all these magazines, is probably more the most powerful force in driving this overproduction, so that you can make as durable clothes as you want to, but as it looks now, or the research that we have now shows that the reason for things being discarded in the different waste channels, or even donated also, isn't because they're used up or that they aren't durable enough. It's that people just get sick of them. They want something new. It doesn't fit anymore because, oh, I put on 2 kilos, it doesn't fit anymore. Oops.
That's a design issue though, right? If we gain weight, we could have design clothes that it works with.
Well, you can do knitwear, which is much easier, of course, than something that is in woven fabric. But you raised your hand.
I raised my hand, yes, because it's just wanted to apologize for interrupting such an interesting conversation, because I wanted to jump in with the fact that in order to make these changes, we need obviously to change the culture, because people always follow a trend, right? What is nowadays that people do? They don't think with their own head, but they follow the trends. And they are also afraid of expressing their own mind because of this big, broader culture we have created where everything is monitored. And if you say the wrong word or express the wrong thought, which is not in line with the global thoughts, then you are basically signed out or cancelled. For that, I blame the media, because they are the online press, social media influencers, they're all corrupted, because what they do, they actually they are sold to the best offer. So if we don't change this culture, and every time I'm just mentioning Stella McCartney the other day, I read a post on LinkedIn which made me laugh, not smile but laugh, because she's just implementing a tiny little change in her line of production by making the feathers. So sorry, they are ecological. They are not, from natural. And everyone, the entire LinkedIn community was bowing. Oh, Stella McCartney, she's so fabulous. She's so green. She's so sustainable. As a matter of fact, she's still keeping the production cost under control, because guess what? She's still manufacturing in cheap labor countries, using cheap labor. You see what I mean? So the media, the people, they should stop following the trends. We need to change the culture. And obviously, we need to stop these gasps and wow factor. Each time one of these royalties, fashion royalties, they post something which is convenient for them just to clean their image, but they are not sustainable at all. So, sorry, close parenthesis, that's all I want to say.
I think this is also a question, again, that one is focusing on these small incremental changes in the products rather than the system. And that's the major problem. That's what Maria was saying too, and what we think that is super important, that we bring this discussion. We don't mire ourselves into the discussion about these details, because it's taking away from the discussion that has to be there. Is it capitalism? Is it greed? What is it that's driving the current situation? I mean, wasn't it Gandhi who said that there is enough resources for every man's need, but not for everyone's greed?
Yes, and I could also add to that. I was actually going to say, I think another topic, except for these like tariffs and trade barriers and agreements that have been put in the past to protect national industries, especially within textile. The thing that we need to understand is that fast fashion is not just the cultural, so not just the marketing and the values that come with that, and it's not just this trade phenomena, but it's also a financial machine. Mm. So growth, what does it mean? So we're thinking that, the nations are like forced to have growth in order for us to have our services and so forth, at least in the welfare state. That is how it's framed. What is it that is fueling growth? It's this financialization of everything. That's what's behind it. And I think that we need to start also to separate between those small companies that that manage to stay autonomous from this thinking of financialization. And what it really means, it means that it's often used in economics and to describe when an organization starts to move towards just being mobilized by financial motives, financial markets, financial actors, and its institutions. So it's looking at this kind of quarterly reporting and return on investment, and that is what drives the whole company. It's also about keeping those stock markets at a certain point. And I think all of the things that Leanne was talking about, the luxury goods, but also the everyday consumer goods, are driven by this. And that's what's creating this problem with growth, because it's always expecting returns. It's always expecting higher profits. And it's expecting more and more in shorter and shorter time.
Yeah, and we see that, for example, we in Norway have this fund, the oil fund that we call it, which is a pension fund, and the argument against, for example, not having a degrowth economy, or an economy that puts wellness and those things ahead of the growth, is that, well, then these pension funds will collapse. So,
Exactly.
so the EU refuses to discuss that one can think differently around the economy, because they see the collapse of these pension funds, which we are relying on in a way for our future.
And those pension funds are thriving on sectors that have low wages, have this kind of waste colonialism, linear models embedded, and access to, if not free, but at least very cheap land in the global south. We need to find a way to get around that, but we also need to make amends to understand that our privilege that you mentioned, Tone, will be endangered by that. It will be dismantled, because we are living off it at the moment, and we need to acknowledge that. If not with our pension funds, but also with our our high standards of living.
I see Michael has raised his hand.
Thank you. I'm very glad Tone brought up pension funds, and Norway's sovereign wealth fund is undergirded by its petroleum economy. And so underlying this issue about capitalism and fashion is the petro economy, and the production of synthetics, which are the backbone of fast fashion. 2/3 of all textiles produced in the world now are made of synthetic materials, primarily polyester, all derived from petrol, from oil, and the exploitation of those resources. And so when coming back to the point about woolens, woolens are natural fibers. And I think we can broaden from discussing woolens. Wool has its limitations too. Highly desirable for cold climates, highly desirable when it's manufactured in a way that's sustainable, but it does take land to raise sheep. But natural fibers as a general category provide an alternative to synthetic fibers, an alternative to the oil-based economy, which has dominated fashion increasingly since 1960, when it used to be 3% of production, and now it's 67% of production. So that's the shift historically that has made fashion derivative on the oil-based economy, on petrol economy. And the answer I think we've heard, beginning with the introduction, is to decapitalize that industry. So the petrol industry is among the most highly subsidized industry in the world. Governments are shelling out taxpayers' money to support a dying industry. On the other side, they're under investing in sustainable alternatives, in particular natural fiber markets, which are much more closely attuned to local economies, to farm economies. And I'm not just speaking of raising sheep. It's crops that are sustainable. It's fibers that are manufactured from plants, and that should be the area of investment. What can steer that investment, and I'll end with my comment on this, is international sustainability standards, which should be articulated for textiles and then for fashion, because textiles are undergirding fashion. And that should lead investors, including those pension fund investors that we were speaking of a moment ago, to invest in sustainability and not in petrol. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
And
you, Michael. Thank you. I think Leanne, that's amazing. Sorry, Maria, you wanted to respond.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the topic of oil, and I think that actually that's one of the petrochemical industry is one of the reasons why fashion industry has been able to become this kind of mass consumption, because it's been able
Yes.
to de-link itself from its requirement of land in a way by pumping up oil from below instead. And that we know now, both for the landfill field sector, but also for the climate and for a lot of other reasons, is
Absolutely.
not going to work. The
No.
problem is, of course, that also a growth-based system on natural fibers, there's no way that we can maintain this, because the planet will just not inhabit that many sheep, that many whatever it is for us to make those fibers, natural fibers. So we do need to downscale if we're going there. And there's no way of replacing oil in our industrial factories, in our transport systems at this level, without harming a lot more landscapes in the extraction of the minerals that are required for an energy-fueled economy. So there's no way out of it. We have to
No,
rethink.
we are trapped. But if I may add, that's why it's fundamental that we basically enable a new culture that is urging the audience, the customers, to stop buying from, and reducing in this way the overproduction. Because if we keep the demand very high, obviously the production will never stop. It will increase. It will keep increasing. So we need to help changing this culture as well.
And I totally agree. And I see Leanne has her hand raised and wants
Yes.
to comment. But also, I want to, before we leave this discussion, I need to mention Fibershed, and I want to talk a little bit about them. So, Leanne, you're muted.
Leanne, you are on mute.
I just wanted to say wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And to pick up on one not small point, it's a very large point, briefly stated, product rather than the system, focusing on the product rather than the system. And with the current climate, it's not a climate, the current institution of fashion is basically under self-regulation. We have a huge issue there. One of the things that I wanted to say too is that I'll bring it up actually after, but that's exactly it. It's self-regulation. And then if you close your eyes and think about the magnitude of that statement and the impact that it has overall, it's mind-boggling. So, more soon, but I don't want to take up too much of the time here, but I just wanted to inject. I'll try.
It's true that now EU has discovered that the textile industry does need regulation, and it's struggling to find the right policies and the right framework around it, and most of it is focused on the products rather than the system. So when they are implementing regulation, it's on the product level. They
are, but you tell me, what is the enforceability issue? I mean, the enforceability issue is another issue in itself. But it sounds good on paper.
Yeah, but before we leave this discussion and go on to the next speaker, I'd just like to say that the Fibershed movement has challenged the current globalized textile industrial system as a grassroots movement. And it's very interesting that it comes from the grassroots. And it is spreading globally now. It started in California with Rebecca Burgess and her wish to dress with something that was made locally from local fibers. And it did start with local wool, but it has spread to other fibers as well. But it's still struggling as an actor inside the capitalist system. So any ending thoughts, Maria, what must change to make the fiber shed thinking actually work?
So I'd say 2 points here. One is, can we keep the fiber shed companies, entrepreneurs, protect them from being financialized? Because these financial driver for finding profitable businesses that are bought up and then turned into this kind of quarterly reporting returns on investment, quick investments, it's strong. And we know that most of the individuals that are working in this beautiful grassroots movement are struggling hard economically. And that the incentives for them to stay struggling hard, whatever it is, family challenges, might come a divorce, a death in the family, health concerns, are huge. They are quite alone in this capitalist system. They're taking on a lot of risks. Can they, oops, now I've been sitting for too long, so that can we protect them in some way that they can continue their work from the grassroots and building translocal networks of support that can kind of help them to build the alternative system? That is one concern I have. But you asked that how can we make it work like long term? And I do think that we need to rethink the kind of business models so they are not left alone, so that we have more risk sharing, so that we find ways of organizing these, that they don't go into the kind of shareholder capitalist systems, but can stay in cooperative models. How would that look? Can we find producer-consumer networks where we share risks, like in alternative food movements? You see these long contracts made between farmers and consumers. But then we go into, again, the luxury segment of the society, because it's the consumers that have a little bit of money that need to step up and support this, at least in the initial stages. We cannot probably change the policies before we have a little bit stronger movement on that end that can show that this really works. So I think that is the conversation that we need, are the organizational models to support these systems so they're not so vulnerable, and the practical models that we have to put in place for the infrastructures to work, to get the costs down for them so they can actually function. I mean, I've heard many of those stories when I've interviewed of the vulnerabilities that come with this. And many of them are forced to quit or sell if you don't have enough of the infrastructures around to make it work. It's not only about creating consumer demand and prices. There's so much more that goes into that. But it's fabulous that the conversation is going. I think the fiber shed movement has been able to really show the materiality of the needed change and the practicalities that come with it. So, but from there on, I think that it needs a lot more support from all of us in different ways.
Thank you.
And I think we have a representative online here, Ragnhild Lie from Lofoten Wool. Would you like to say something about how you've been working in this area?
I think,
She's muted.
Ragnhild, I think you are muted.
No, not anymore. She unmuted herself.
Yes. So thank you very much for also letting me talk. I did not know that I was going to talk, but I'm very pleased to listen to you and also to see you. And I also have a colleague here. She's not on the screen. She's
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, she's a Finnish architecture who prefers to work with me and others here with the local wool up in the Lofoten Islands, up in the northern part of Norway. So I don't know what you want me to say, but I'm a textile artist, and we collect wool from different wool breeds, sheep breeds, and send it to a spinning mill and produce a lot of different.
But you even started a wool station, and that's pretty impressive.
Yes, that's just what that's the recent thing we did. So we are now we are able to pay the state's
Subsidies.
subsidies for the farmers for this and this different kind of qualities of the wool.
Norway is one of the few countries in the world that actually has state subsidies for wool.
Yes. So we pay the farmers some kroners, and the state is paying also some kroners. So this gives the farmers the opportunity to pay the share, at least, but it's nothing to become rich of, you know. Mostly the farmers are thinking about producing meat around here. But we do have lovely wool, and we're taking care of all breeds to take care of the genes. So it's also important not to have only these industrialized kind of sheep. So we have this little farm here, and we have, as you might know, a lot of tourism in Lofoten. It's a very well-known place to visit. So we actually have now some 4 or 5 people working full-time here. And it's very rare that it's possible to do that in Norway. But it's because of the tourism. But we also sell knitting yarn for Norwegians, knitting kits, patterns, and a lot of hand knit, ready-made. Especially Americans come here they want a Norwegian sweater, so this traditional kind of patterns. And we plant dye the yarn using the same methods that the Vikings did. So we're talking a lot about the heritage and old traditions. So for us, it's a very meaningful work. We tell a lot of stories, talk to people. And yes, that's also a comment from me to what has been said here already. I think you've been putting on really, really hardcore, important issues. And it's not easy when you say, yes, we are stuck, because I think we really are. In Norway, we are petroholics, but many others are as well. But some of the clues is information and knowledge. How can people choose in the shop if they don't know anything? You know, that's very important as well. So yeah, we think that we are doing some kind of a missionary work. And you might have noticed that I'm sitting here working with this skein.
Yes, I was just wondering, Ragni, can you show us something? Yes,
we
this
get
is
the
so
yarn like this.
amazing. Wow, it's beautiful.
From the spinning wheel, we get it like this, and then I have been
Wow.
turning it like this, and then we're putting on the
Amazing.
label like this. So here you
Oh,
can see a picture of the farmer.
Yes.
The farmer
Can
looking
you
at the sheep, and it's been shorn by another man here.
This is amazing. If you can, share your website or anything with us, and then obviously, if you send me all your details after the podcast, I will put all your details, contact details, on the post-show reports and on the website as well. This is amazing work you're doing, Ragnhild. Can you just tell me what are the major issues that you are facing overall? I mean, which is the issue that you need to solve or that you need help with ASAP in order to thrive with your line of work?
Right now, I wish I could have some millions of kroners, because we also dream about putting up a spinning mill, because we have to ship the wool quite far away down on the west coast to get it washed and spun. So we would love to have everything here in the local, here in the islands of Lofoten. And I've been working now for 4 years to make it happen. And we have machinery in Finland, and we need a space to do it. So we need some 500 square meters on the concrete floor, industrial space. So that's what we really dream about.
Maybe we can help and start a campaign to raise some funds, maybe, or I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
united all together, we can think of,
Yeah.
using this movement,
Yeah.
this platform, to actually help raising awareness and funds, because, in order
Yeah.
to achieve. What do you think?
Yes, it would be lovely. I have been working here now to try and convince these men working with fish or technology. There's all this like you've been talking about these money makers and the growth way of thinking, and they don't believe in these strange ladies back in the corner there working with wool, So
It's really
on
it's emotional too. It's really emotional. It makes me emotional to see, people like you, like Sonal, Ragnhild, Sonal, and struggling for doing something which is out of the ordinary, and you should be praised and you should be in the spotlight rather than this fashion glamorous nobodies, because in the end of the day they are nobodies. So it's really amazing what you're doing, and I really have a lot of respect for people like you and Sonal, that you don't make any fuss. You are not on this social saying, oh look how amazing I am, and then you're really struggling on a daily basis to make something which is absolutely outstanding.
Thank you so much. It's very.
May
It's
I
very
just add here, it's precisely this what I mean by collaboration. What is needed is that there might be, not far away from you, a 500 square meter place that you could actually use, that somebody else needs to get in use in order for it not to fall apart. So to build these networks, to build these infrastructures, communicative infrastructures that can enable these kind of collaborations, I think is we need more conversations that also bring these, that still believe in growth, which is the majority of the people. But for all of the reasons that we have talked about here, if we are going to have a planet that lives and thrives, we need to find a way to engage and discuss with them about the planetary conditions. It's not an easy discussion, but it's necessary. And once that is in place, then that hall will appear for you magically.
Yes.
Yes.
Together with the finished spinning wheel, which I'm really interested in knowing. Which one are you taking from us?
Lien, do you also have a question, Lien, please? Lien, we can't hear you. Sorry. I can't hear you, Lien.
Muted.
It's on mute. Don't know what happened. You can hear us, but yeah, we can't hear you.
But we need to give time to Sonal too.
Yeah. Okay. So while Lien is just okay. So I don't know if anyone else has any further question before we close this panel. And Lien, I'm sorry, but I can't hear you. We can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Maybe you need to log off and then log in again. So this is amazing panel, incredible conversations happened today here. We need to expand the conversation on designer like Ragnhild in Norway, and we will give you more space on the next episode. We will be focusing on. Lien, sorry. Okay, we will be focusing on your amazing work, Ragnhild. Fantastic, thank you. And then we'll keep in touch to discuss maybe a campaign afterwards. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work, and thank you to Professor Maria Henstrom Fuentes for an incredible panel, one of the most interesting panel I had on my podcast. And thanks to Turner for bringing such amazing, and for your panel today, Turner. Thank you very much. You've been absolutely amazing, fantastic. So it's with great pleasure now that I'm introducing our friend and supporter, Sonal Jain Bait from India. Sonal, she's presenting her panel focusing on the costs of funding a real sustainable brand. Welcome, Sonal.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hello, and it's a real honor to be amongst such thinkers, amazing ideas, and people. I'm really, truly honored. Thank you so much, Irene, for arranging for this. Okay, let me begin with a
My pleasure
simple.
always.
What is the real cost of clothes that we wear? If a t-shirt is costing less than a cup of coffee, who's paying the real price? You know, we all know what it is, what it does to the planet, what it does to the people, but we also know that it's the health that is getting impacted of the people who are making, of the people, of the planet, and of the user as well. So what are the real hidden costs? I'm sure most of the people on the panel already know this, but just for the sake of other people who are listening, I'm just going to repeat a few things that has been said before. Probably we all know about this. So fashion today produces over 92 million tons of textile waste every year. That's a garbage full of clothes dumped every single second. It uses 93 billion cubic meters of water annually, and it's all wasted. All of it is toxic. That is enough to meet the needs of 5 million people. It emits 10% of global carbon emissions. It's all international flights and maritime shipping all combined. So it's one of the most polluting industries. We all know this by now. Every single synthetic fiber, polyester, nylon, spandex, starts with crude oil, which already Michael has mentioned this. Every wash of the polyester t-shirt releases microplastics. Where do this microplastics, where does it go? We now know that our body, our bloodstream has microplastics. Our rivers have microplastics. The fish has, the salt has, the soil has. Everywhere, it's all around us. Every bright color in fast fashion is a hint of the azidize, the formaldehyde, the heavy metals polluting the water sources of rural communities that produce them. And it's not just the rural communities, it comes right back to us. Today we have to buy bottled water because we don't have fresh water around us. When we talk about sustainability, we often talk about just about recycling or organic cotton, but the real conversation is also about overproduction and overconsumption, which all of you have already spoken about. So what's the cost to the maker? We know about the Rana Plaza issues and how the dignity of the people working in that factory, it was very underpaid people, right? Fashion employs over 75 million people globally, and most of them are women. Many of them working in unsafe and unpaid conditions. When we buy a $5 t-shirt, someone else is absorbing the rest of the cost through the long hours, low wages, and exposure to toxic chemicals. I have visited some of these factories, and believe me, it's impossible to stand in those factories even for 5 minutes. They're so toxic. It's almost like inhaling your nail enamel or a paint continuously for hours and hours and hours and for years. I've heard about such stories of people fainting, having to go to the hospital, being hospitalized because of inhaling of these toxic dyes. I've seen this up close during my work with Mayu, where we sought to create non-toxic intimate wear from organic cotton. We worked with small dyeing units and traditional artisans. What came painfully clear was the most workers in conventional and dyeing and finishing units were breathing these toxic fumes. I had to visit them to understand what was going on in these factories. So when I visit them, I see what happens every single day. Their hands burned by synthetic dyes and bleaches. They don't wear gears because it's difficult to do manual work every single day with big gloves and shoes. So they always do it barehanded, and they're inhaling all these fumes all the time. When we talk about sustainability, we must stop imagining it's an environmental issue alone. I have looked at it from the perspective of environment, but I didn't feel it was enough. It is also about the social justice. It is about gender issues, and it's also about human rights. Rights to our health, rights to the health of people who are working in the factories. A truly sustainable brand must ensure that the person who made the garment also has a dignified life, and it's not just a job. They're spending hours and hours every day, sometimes 10 to 15 hours every day, including overtime. Most of these people prefer doing overtime because that's where they earn a lot more money, not the regular paying hours. Now let's turn to us people. It's us, you and me. When we wear such garments, which has polyester and spandex and microplastics in it, our skin, our body is the largest organ which absorbs all of that. And most of us don't even know about it. We don't even think about it. It touches us daily. It's our first environment. When we are talking about the environment, the toxicity in the environment, our clothing is our first environment. It's touching our body all the time. And if that's toxic, the planet is going to be toxic. There are over 8,000 chemicals that go into one single garment. And most of them are carcinogenic and endocrine disruptors, absorbed slowly through our skin and our body. We talk about clean food, we talk about clean beauty, but we rarely talk about clean food, which we are wearing all the time. When we are talking about food, we barely eat 1 or 2 or 3 meals a day, limited food. And we are very careful about the clean food that we eat. When we put things on our skin, we are careful about the things that we put on our skin. But we rarely think about how clean our clothes are when we are wearing them. When I started exploring the health impact of clothing through Mayu, I realized something deeply concerning. Many people struggling with rashes, allergies, hormonal imbalances had never questioned their underwear or the fabric of the clothing that they're wearing. So sustainability is not just about saving the planet or protecting the workers, it's about protecting our own bodies. And once the consumer realizes that it's not healthy for them, that's when they'll stop buying toxic garments. So let's be honest, sustainability has become one of the most overused and misused words in the fashion. Anybody and everybody talks about sustainability and can claim without substance. They can claim the greenwashing, the brands exaggerate about fabricating of sustainable credentials. We spoke about that. And coincidentally, Stella McCartney has just partnered with the largest oil producing company in India for its to bring its fashion to India. How ironical is that?
Sorry, Sonal, which company she's partnered with, Stella?
Reliance Industries. It's one of the largest polyester producing companies in India. It's one of the largest. It has the biggest oil.
You know.
Yeah.
Can you
and
share the details of this? Yeah. Can you share the details, please, of this?
Yes. I will share it's latest in the news. It just happened, I think, a few days ago. But it's so funny that Stella goes and partners with a company, and all in India, nobody trusts that company. But it's the richest family, it's the richest company. It's got its hands in every industry possible. Whether you talk about healthcare, whether you talk about fashion, whether you talk about digital, anything. My phone is running on that company as well.
Yeah, I want to add that when I was with UNEP, UN Environment Program, with their partnership team, Reliance had applied for a partnership with us, and we did due diligence and denied their request. Among other things, they engage in arms trafficking, and so they're in a prohibited category of corporations that you just cannot touch. They also are involved in extractive industries, that is, in oil and gas. So this is not the kind of company that you want to partner with if you have any interest at all in sustainability.
Absolutely. Exactly that. So yeah, the brands produce these green capsule collections while continuing to overproduce billion garments, like, the feather Stella McCartney is talking about. It's just a media it's just a media information and just to get, eyeballs and just to show that they're green. A few years ago, there was this another campaign that was run by Levi's, where they were talking about converting plastic bottles into textiles and t-shirts and denims. So that also made people, oh my God, yes, they're using plastic bottles and they're converting it, they're so green. But nobody questions about what the process is. How do you convert a plastic bottle into fabric? How chemically intensive that is? And are you telling people to wear plastic on their bodies all the time? What happens to the process? What happens after that t-shirt is made and used? It's going back to the landfill. You've used so much of energy already, and then you go back, and what happens to it afterwards? So who is questioning all of that, right? So the highlight is that people use, even companies highlight organic cotton, and barely 5% of their clothing would be organic cotton. So that happens as well. It's incredibly difficult for a well-intentioned consumer to make informed choices today, right? So people have so many questions, and it's our job to educate them. So I use Mayu as a platform to do that as well. So when we talk about the real cost of fashion, sustainable fashion, we must reframe the question. Why is sustainable fashion expensive? Let's not ask that. Why is conventional fashion so cheap? Let's ask that question. Because when a t-shirt costs less than a sandwich, it's not because it's efficient. It's because someone somewhere paid the cost for you. The real cost of sustainable fashion is the true cost. The cost of clean water, safe workplaces, the cost of soil, non-toxic fabrics, fair wages, health of people making it, health of people using it. That's the real cost. We need to stop calling sustainability a luxury. It's a necessity. It's the act of collective responsibility. It's not just the system, it's not just the product, it's everybody involved in it. The consumer, the maker, the user, everybody is involved in it.
May I say something? May I say something? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sonal. I think you made an outstanding point here. We should stop calling this industry sustainable, but because it is a necessity.
Yes.
And that's the core point of the issue here.
Yes.
Okay, sustainability, like often me and Dr. Lian, we speak about this point very often. And it's the sustainability, the concept, what does it mean? It doesn't exist because we are not sustainable at all. So it's becoming a necessity. So companies, fashion brands, they shouldn't be, trying to be sustainable because it's becoming a necessity. So thank you for that. Sorry, I just wanted to put, the highlights on this point.
So let's also define what beauty means in fashion, right? It's not the access, it's not the abundance, but it's the ethics in the fashion industry, right? Every thread that counts. We are all connected by one long, unbroken thread, from the soil to the hands to the skin. When the soil is alive, the maker thrives. When the maker thrives, the user feels well. And when the user feels well, the planet breathes again. We now know that fabric also holds energy. There was a test done in the laboratory to measure the energy of a fabric. And it was shown that polyester has the energy of a dead person. And linen and organic cotton has the energy of high energy, or of very good health. Yes, very high hertz of energy it has. So it's a healing fabric. These fabrics, when they are pure, without any synthetic chemicals, and when they are natural, they also have the power to heal. In Ayurveda, we've always had, we have conversations about how textiles can be healthy and what should go on those textiles. Color was never for fashion. It was the ingredients that were going. It was the turmeric that was used for dyeing. It was the medicinal ingredients that were used for dyeing. And that coincidentally gave color. It was never about the color. It was never about the fashion color of the year or fashion color of the month. It was always about health. Only healthy ingredients were always used. Nothing else was ever used. in the on the textiles. For example, turmeric dyed cloth was used to wrap the babies for its antimicrobial and antiseptic properties. So this was the basis of color. That's where the color actually started being introduced into textiles. And I don't know why it converted into this poisonous, when it converted into this poisonous garment that we wear. And people are not aware about this. People are not educated about this, that they are carrying poison on their bodies all the time, constantly. So what are the changes that we can do? We always talk about the problems. We always talk about the challenges. We talk about these things. We always are discussing that. But what is it that we can do as policymakers? What can we do? Maybe mandatory have a supply chain disclosure. Maybe have stricter chemical safety regulations. I mean, there are some, but they're not strict enough, I feel. Maybe on some products, we should eliminate using chemicals at all. You know, some products can go without using chemicals at all. Maybe extended producer responsibility, so brands remain accountable for what they are doing. Even consumers are should be accountable for that. For fashion professionals, what they can do is choose not for aesthetics but for impact, for ethics. Measure the true costs of the water, the carbon, the human well-being. Keep that on top priority, that what you're making people wear is providing to their health and well-being and not taking away from that. It's also their job. They should also think like health professionals of how they can help people feel more healthier. For people, buy less, choose better, make it last longer. Read the labels, look beyond just organic. See if the brand talks about wages, about water, about waste, and also what else is on the label. Does it have spandex written? If the brand is talking about organic, are they hiding other materials behind that? So be aware about those things. Support local artisans, support small businesses.
That's why we are here for that, Sonal. Yes, to support your work. I think Dr. Liane has a question for you.
I'm back in action. Sorry about that.
I can't hear you, Liane.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Okay. We were talking to Raghilda about supporting her work, and basically we can also talk about supporting Sonal's work.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of endocrine disruptors, I actually created an outline or a foundation for her to create an amicus brief to submit to the Parliament. The problem is self-regulation. By bringing things like endocrine disruptive issues to the legislation, I mean, we get it. We need to start a new coalition, okay? We get it. We all get it here. So why isn't anybody listening? Because we don't have, we're not in the pipeline. We have to create, that's one of our issues here today. How do we create this pipeline? And I just love Michael to pieces, and I feel bad I left something out about the UN that I was going to say, and I'm going to say it. He'll get over it. And it's nothing personal, Michael, because I just think he's brilliant, and I just love your work. Basically, what my outline for the UN Alliance for Sustainable Fashion and Corporate Coalitions, institutions such as the UN Alliance for Sustainable Fashion, the Fashion Pact, and Global Fashion Agenda, in a lot of ways perpetuate policy theater. I'm not saying everybody, Michael, I'm just saying generally. It can be said, backed by elite brands and philanthropic foundations, these organizations hold summits in luxury venues while producing non-binding declaration and voluntary codes. Their frameworks exclude enforcement and rarely represent the global South artisans most affected by fashion's externalities. And it's just what I wanted to say. So we really, if you think about it, all these wonderful minds here today, I'm not saying mine is included, but you know, I'll ride the coattails. There needs to be a different pipeline that has to be created. We're all sitting here and we're saying, you know, for Raquelda, the problem is volume, consumption levels. So she can be doing wonderful things where she is in her very micro, you know, creative space. But then when you extrapolate this and you build it, you know, how can we build, you know, fast fashion by Sunil Bade, right? It's not possible. It's the consumption, it's all of these things. So that's all I wanted to say. Sunil could really, her work is amazing. And so endocrine disruptors are huge, you know, with the bra, the pant, you know, the whole 9 yards, baby clothes. So that's all I want to say. We could, you know, hop in and get something going there too.
We will do for sure. So now,
Thank you. I personally feel that fashion has the power to heal. If done correctly, it can heal back people. We have been producing using regenerative cotton, indigenous cotton varieties. We are supporting farmers where we are producing cotton which uses very little water, use no pesticides, and it's a very, very old variety of cotton, very resilient. We are using that. We are getting handloom weavers to make fabrics out of it, and we make boxers out of them, hand stitch boxers out of them. These are all naturally dyed or undyed and unbleached. When my users use them, what they come and tell me time and again, I didn't introduce it for that, but what they come and tell me, this is a very common response that I get from them, is that I sleep better now, that I don't want to wear anything else. They are so comfortable. They are so easy. I want to just be in them all the time. So when they are feeling so good, when they're feeling so healthy, and when they're sleeping better, that means their bodies are also healing themselves. They are regenerating themselves. That regenerative cotton and made by somebody who's making it in their homes. They're living simple, dignified lives, bringing in again positive energy into the fabric, owned by people who are using them, and they're sleeping better. It's a complete cycle. Everybody in this, the land, the people making it, and the person using it, every single person benefits out of this, and every single person feels healthy and happy. Whether it's the planet, whether it's the soil, whether it's the water, whether it's I personally believe what my experience building Mayu and interacting with my customers is that they are ready for this. They want this, and it makes them feel good. It's not just about buying more. Of course, how much of underwear would one buy, right? I mean, but it's something that they want to use every single day of their lives, all the time, because it makes them feel good. It helps them breathe. They say, finally, I feel my body is breathing. Finally, I feel relaxed in my underclothes. I'm not itching anymore. No, small changes has caused a big effect in their lives. So I personally feel that through Mayu, I have experienced it. It came from a personal experience that I introduced this when my daughter was on the onset of PCOD and PCOS, and it made me look into hormonal disruptors, and my focus went on the innerwear. So what started as a personal project for me, or a personal drive for me, showed me how it was impacting so many people, the entire supply chain, as well as the people who are using it. And that is something that gives me a lot of hope that fashion has a power to heal if it's done correctly, if everybody is thought of mindfully, and if health is put at the topmost parameter beyond everything else. When you put health as a parameter, then you automatically know what chemicals to use or not to use, what materials to use or not to use, where to make it, how clean they are, how healthy they are. If it's put on the health, if sustainability's parameter is equivalent to how healthy it is, then automatically you know what needs to be used and what doesn't. So that's all. Me.
Excellent.
So much.
Thank you. Sonal, this was really another powerful panel from Sonal. Thank you very much for being here today and for sharing your incredible journey. I think that Maria has a question. Professor Enstrom, yeah.
There. I wanted to just thank you for this. I think if you look at the debates that's going on in food, what you have brought forward, Sonal, is what actually makes people change what they eat. And that it's not discussed that much. I know it is discussed, but it doesn't reach the people, the clothing, as easily as what is put in the mouth. I think that is a challenge, and also to consider the mighty power of marketing and this narrative that is brought through all kinds of spectacles. I think Leanne was talking about. How can we create counter spectacles that are as powerful, that bring this health aspect and the chemicals that go into the body, and even the energies that you were talking about that affect our health? I think that is actually the way for the individual consumer to transform. Unfortunately, the blindness towards the colonial injustices is so thick that it's very difficult to engage on that level. But I know when it is about your own body, then people tend to become a little bit more.
Yes, I have noticed that as well. My previous business was focusing only on the environment aspect of it. So I would get a lot of accolades, announcements in the newspaper, a lot of articles written about it. All that was happening, but I could barely see any conversion happen. As soon as I got a product that was affecting the user themselves, they are choosing to replace it with something that they can wear. You know, it's a small change. It's the smallest change. And I know it'll probably be the smallest garment that you would buy for yourself, but it brings about a huge change. And I think that makes people start thinking about other products as well. That makes them think about other garments that they wear as well.
Thank you, Sonal. I think there is, we have a lady from the audience and Leanne, they want to ask a question. Susan Dolan.
Hi.
Hello, Susan. Hi.
I've not turned my camera on because I've not brushed my hair or put makeup on or anything. I thought,
Don't worry.
I thought there's no way it got to Leanne's up at that time. But it can't be on. I must get on. So I didn't realise I was expecting this a little bit later. Sorry. Yeah, I'll just you've kind of like solved my issue. I'm having a Zoom with Dr. Leanne and some wonderful academic ladies who are going to write some research that I'm going to distribute across my platform and also across social media, and I have 250,000 followers. So you've just solved my issue, because I was trying to link up. There's a clear link, I think, between suffrage and the textile industry. So I've got a woman's historian coming to it with an Indian cartoonist. We've got some academics, and you just solved the issue there. It's like, if we take it back to the health, I suffered with my skin. I've been through light therapy recently, so I'm kind of walking on air at the moment. But I suffer massively from my skin. If we come from that angle, because that was the angle we were looking at, like, the answer is all in the soil, isn't it? You know, whether it's the medicine, the food, everything, it's in the soil. So that kind of solves my issue of like how it all interconnects with the suffrage and the textile industry. And I've got some wonderful ladies who are going to write some academic reports. So if we can include this everything that Sonal said, I'd like to be able to kind of get a transcript of this whole thing, because you basically said it all on here. You know, I'm furiously writing notes like, oh, I need to know this, I need to know that, but you kind of said it all on there. And that's obviously a great point about people only care when it's about themselves. Unfortunately, it's, well, not all people, but a lot of people do. So we take it back to the body. So you've solved my whole issue. So if we can do all of these things, I can share your amazing work with all of the world. That's my kind of job done. So I could just see like my little jigsaw piece fitting in there of what I can do, because we've got the platform, the People Sub, and I've found communities all over the world. We cover lots of different things, and I believe just lately we've just been doing the Walking Forest, which is where the suffragettes had planted seeds 100 years ago, which is due to be, and it's like, wow, this is all kind of come into place. So, and we've got them on the hub, we've got loads of people on the hub, and it's all about the artisans, it's all about ending homelessness, about community, social enterprise, women's rights, end FGM, everything. I've just been running around trying to find the solutions. So this for me is a jigsaw piece. So if I can help all you wonderful, amazing people, I've got that very small piece that you've just been asking for. So if that's okay, can we take a transcript of this and I'll interlink it all, I'll send it out there to you've already got the solutions. This is what I think. And I'll stop rambling because I will go away in a second.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah. We're going to be looking at Mentuba and all these other things, but you kind of just done the whole thing there of what we can write, can get these wonderful ladies, because these wonderful who are in university, they want to do right things, but they want to like put policy in place. You know, they don't want to waste their time just keep writing reports that says, no, we will publish it all, but it's all about solutions. So it's a story. So I'll stop rambling, but you've just solved my jigsaw piece. This is how I can help.
Thank you very much, Susan. We can discuss that later on. We need to finish the podcast, and we have another guest, another lady who is waiting patiently to join the panel. Thank you very much, Susan.
Okay.
Thank you. I think Leanne has a question as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add this. And Sunil brings up the most wonderful point of, taking care, eating is one thing, dressing is another, and associating clothing with your health. And when we focus once again, going to the global south, we have, for example, our favorite dump site, Dandora, right, in Kenya, which should have been closed legally in 1973. However, it's still operating in full tilt. So these clothes that are made with these endocrine disruptors are then dumped there. It goes in, all the poisons go into the Nairobi riverbed. The water is contaminated, the soil is contaminated, and the people are contaminated. So clothing definitely we have to really work, I think, supporting Sunil's voice, because it really, the relationship is mind-boggling, and it's understated dramatically.
We always support Sonal. It's already the second time she's with us, and of course, this is an important point that you raised, Leanne. Thank you. So I don't know if there is any further question, because we really need to close the panel, and we have Natalie Botango Naina, who has been waiting, and she joined us a little bit later on. Natalie, I think there was a problem with the timing. There was a cross-wire scenario in terms of timing. I don't think she's there anymore. No, I think that probably she couldn't make it. Okay.
Can you see me? Hello?
Natalie is here.
There you are, Natalie. Hi, finally. Good afternoon. I'm so happy that you made it. I think you got confused with the timing.
No, I was starting to wonder, what is my vision not on? I'm here.
We can see you now. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Natalie Botango. She's the communication manager she's from Africa Collect textile. And I was afraid she couldn't make it today, but then there she is. Her panel will be focusing on a second life, a textile story. So she will explain to us the role of her company and how they are helping this terrible scenario in Kenya, in Africa, with this open landfill.
Yeah.
So yes, Natalie, please.
Yes. To start off, first, I want to say that this is such a lovely panel and group of people. And I must say that I've really, really learned a lot. Questions that I've had for a long time, and also new discoveries. I don't even think I need to go very deep into what the problem is, because again, I always say that the fashion problem is a global problem. So when Michael said that the solutions that we need are more international, sustainable standards, it really, really made sense. Because we are trying to do it to change systems down here. But again, all the waste that we're dealing with, or most of it, is coming from the global north. I'm trying to find a new word for the global north and not to try and divert from that. Still in the works with that, but hopefully we can get there. Kenya as a country right now receives almost 185 tons of secondhand clothing, but the country invests about 38.7 million or billion annually to import clothes from outside. So the textile issue is not just from mitumba, but it's also from what people wear. If I was asked, I would say that the issue is, just like any other country in the world, is we do not have ethical disposable system for our textile. So in the global north, it could look like collection bins that are apparently supposed to be for charity. But here, it looks like dump sites. So we have a combination of both clothing coming from abroad and clothing that is worn by the locals. When Dr. Leon mentioned Dandara, I was happy, but I would want to take this opportunity to drive the problem away from Mitumba, but to what is happening with the people locally. So Dandara every day receives about 2,000 trucks of rubbish or of waste, and this is from county level. So that means it's come from people's homes, people's schools, people's institutes, and all this waste is going into the dump site, where about 200,000 people try to survive and make an earning from. But these same people do not have infrastructure, starting from the least, the bare minimum that could be the uniform or safety nets to at least pick this rubbish while wearing gloves, or at least have shovels or tools. People are using their hands to pick all this rubbish and separate this rubbish. Back to Mitumba, Dandora, which is the largest secondhand clothing market in Kenya, is also going through a waste problem. And I'm trying to see if I can share my screen. Let me see.
Take your time, Natalie, don't worry.
Yeah, just a minute.
And I also take the opportunity, I would kindly ask to the audience not to send too many emojis during the when the speaker is presenting, please. Thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, wow.
Okay. So I have a friend who is currently going to the market every Tuesday and Wednesday, because or with ACT, he's an artist, and we are trying to create a solution, not for the clothes, but for the bell strips. So if you see the bells in this picture, you'll see that they're being reinforced with some sort of plastic strips. And if you go into Gikomba, you'll find a river of these strips. So you'll find people walking on these bell strips. And luckily enough, we were able to get in touch with a gentleman called Evans, who has actually witnessed Gikomba before it was a secondhand market and was still an estate, when you could still see the view of town and the sunset without any interruptions of stalls and clothes. So he decided, he's now about 65, and he decided to move around the market once in a while and collect these bell strips, which he turns into baskets and then gives tea collectors to use to collect their tea rather than the fabric bags they've been using. So my friend told me that as of yesterday, by 12 p.m., he had counted over 230 trucks, him and his colleague Emma. So this is how bell strips, bells come into Gikomba when they have been imported. And I do not really want to get into the conversation of how they get here, because I am sure that at least most of the people here are aware. Mitumba say coming into Africa because of both economical and social problems. Some may say that our government was weakened and we needed, let's not even go very far. Up until now, 80% of Kenyans wear mitumba because it's affordable. So the shopping behavior of people in Kenya is they will shop if it's affordable, if they can afford it. That is why we have, going back to Sonal's panel, that is why we have many Kenyan brands considering the international market as their market, because the local market cannot afford their items.
I'm sorry, Natalie. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you please choose the option stop presenting if you have stopped?
Sorry.
Thank
Oh, I thought I was still presenting. Yeah.
Oh, you're still presenting. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. So I also want to show these images, and I want to ask what comes into your mind when you see these photos. We have one from Dandra, then on the right we have images of clothes from Gikomba. Personally, when I see these images, I'm disappointed. One, because I love fashion. My background in fashion started way back after high school, and I told my parent that I wanted to go to university and study fashion and design and become a big fashion designer. But she asked me if I could present any millionaire in the country. So I was born in Congo, raised in Uganda, and now I work in Kenya. So she asked me to present any millionaire around our community who has made money from fashion, and I could not. But that was even before I knew that the system was broken. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the fact that we, as Kenya, as Africa right now, lack the infrastructure to quantum loop into becoming a hub or support the world as a whole to solve this fashion crisis now. So we have fashion designers who do go to fashion school but are destined to become tailors. But all these are part of the ecosystem. We have 2 million people, over 2 million people depending on the second-hand trade in Gikomba, but this could potentially be fashion jobs that could support the economy. Yeah, so in front of you now, just a minute, is Dandara. And as I mentioned earlier, Dandara receives over 2,000 trucks of waste coming into the dump site every day. I liked when Dr. Lian mentioned that Dandara was announced full decades ago, but this is still where most of our waste goes to. Now, moving to the solution with what ACT is doing, I would say it's exactly what we spoke about, building infrastructure. We want to provide citizens of Africa with ethical ways of disposing their textile, and that would look like diverting textiles from landfill. So collecting, which could be the similar way that this waste comes into our country through secondhand mitumba, but for us to be able to recycle and reuse this textile within the country. So we are currently in Nairobi and Kenya. For Nairobi, for instance, we have set up about 43 collection points. These collection points receive about 3,000 kgs of textile per week. We still have an issue with awareness and it's okay because people demand for transparency, and that is what we are working to provide them with. We want them to know that these clothes are being repurposed ethically. These clothes could turn into something they can reuse in their homes, and most importantly, these clothes are creating a green job or a sustainable job for someone in the country. So far, we have created more than 120 indirect jobs, and because most of our operations are intense, because we collect, we sort, we upcycle, and then we distribute or recycle this clothing. One way we have also tried to reinforce the African way of doing things is through our upcycling model, which empowers grassroots artisans like weavers, who we give textile like denim, khaki, that they get to turn into strips and weave into tapestries. These tapestries have now become famous in the country and are redistributed both for the local and international market. And then we have been able to redistribute these textiles or repurpose them through reuse. And we have a network of about 40 women outside Nairobi in areas like Meru and Nyali, who we give only wearable textiles to start a business with. And we usually do checkups with them every market day that we have every Friday.
Natalie, are you there? Hello? I think there is a problem with the Wi-Fi connection. Natalie? Yeah, we'll wait another few seconds. I don't know if in the meantime, this presentation so far has sparked any question. Lien.
Of course. If there was a minute I could slip this in, I've just been thinking about it. As you know, I'm doing this podcast from my studio. And when I saw Rahilda pick up that beautiful skein of wool that she had done in all of that, and the beautiful piece of wool that had been woven. And then I happen to have this in my studio, which is, it's petro-based, of course, poison. And this actually is from the movie The Devil Wears Prada. And Meryl Streep actually wore a piece of this in the movie. And it's ironic that she was playing Anna Wintour. So it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah, exactly.
And I actually was the designer for an off-Broadway show, and the costumer that built my designs, his name is John Schneeman. And he did all of Meryl's clothes in Devil Wears Prada. And he did John Travolta in Hairspray. He's just a 5-time Emmy Award winner. We had a blast. However, he said to me the worst thing he could have said, Leon, if you want to go through my recycle bins. Meanwhile, I was already up to my ankles in them. So basically, this is it. So when you see Annie throw the red pig fur coat on the counter, it's from here, which I've actually made clothes for my dogs with it. But hopefully they'll live into perpetuity in these things. But it looks nice, it's quick, it's easy, it's cheap, and it's petro.
Yes.
I rest my
it is.
case.
It is. Thank you, Lian.
Really
Hi,
fantastic.
Natalie. Are you back, Natalie? We had the problem.
Yes.
You had a problem with the connection.
Yes. Yeah. Hello for that. I don't know where I lost you guys from.
Yes.
Where
I think that the problem is clear. We got the problem, which one is. But I have one question, Natalie. It's great. Obviously, your organization is up for the recycle of all this dump, let's say, that comes from the West. The issue here is that if we employ all the people in the community there in Kenya to work on what is coming from the West, and they are forced to recycle what they got, what happens to the surrounding nature? What happened to your natural resources? You will never get to use your natural resources because you always have to use what is left, what's coming from the West. So my point is that it's great what you're doing, but maybe we should put a stop and hold to what is coming from the West, because you know it's just overwhelming. And then what happened to your natural resources? Because in this way, if you offer a solution to the problem in this sense, it means that it will never stop. They will feel free, you know, to keep sending rubbish, basically. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is my point.
Yeah, no, for sure, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think for us, it's not to be the savior for what everything, all the clothes that are being produced in the world, and that's impractical because there is even no infrastructure for that. I think aside from our friends in Ghana who are able to build their own bale stripper and their old spinning machine, we cannot do that because we don't have that technology in Kenya. But what they have been able to do, which is the good living and practical example, is they have trained the vendors in Kantamanto, which is the market in Ghana, to be able to start their own brands in a way that they use skills like weaving, find out how Africans used to make their own fiber, how we can go back to regenerative fashion so that they can leave the trade aside. So I think a few years ago, they took the vendors to Paris and they were able to visit a sorting facility. Once the vendors saw the quality of the clothing that is in Paris, even before it leaves to Ghana, they realized that what they're getting into is something risky, because if Paris itself cannot consume its own clothes, then they cannot expect all Ghanaians to buy the clothes that they do not want anymore. And since they still have love for fashion, they decided they should go back to Ghana and grow or make fashion for Ghana, for Ghanaian people. So I think with ACT, what we want to do is get to a point where we can recycle clothes that Kenyans wear, you know, so a Kenyan knows when they are buying, I should buy cautiously, because I know if I'm buying a cotton or linen fiber, I know it's going to be easily repurposed by ACT. That's why even now we have an issue with people still giving us the clothes, because people do not believe in recycling. They do not believe that a cloth can still be, or the system can be circular. Yeah. So we do not have the infrastructure, number one, it will take us millions of years or ages to be able to say that, oh, okay, world, we can solve all your problems. But we want to start by showing Kenyans that, hey, we do not have to wait until we have more than one landfill. We can start now by ethically disposing our clothes as we use that research for infrastructure. Yeah.
No, absolutely. But still the problem remain of basically a country that's been devastated by this amount of these open landfills and this truck and this cargo coming from the West on a staggering, you know, numbers every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, Okay,
Yeah.
well, we really run out of time, I have to say. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you very much for being here today. I don't know if there is anyone who wants to ask any question before we close the panel.
I just wanted to
Leanne?
bring a quick, thank you, a quick point. That was fantastic, Natalie. I am wondering in the back of my mind, what the point that you brought up about the contrast between what's going on in Kenya and what's going on with the work that Sonal is doing. So do you see there isn't enough of her to go around and there's too much of that to go around? So how can this be, how do we reconcile resurrecting this, you know, a more pure form of fashion, and then, you know, you're acclimating to the new thing that you have basically forced on you.
Mhm.
And, you know, we talk about endocrine disruptors, so the quality of the recycled material, you know, to sell it as a sustainable marketing point, it's a good thing because, wow, it's recycled. But what's in it? Right. So.
Yeah. And I believe even if we go to a point of making recycled fiber, it will still have to be reinforced by virgin materials. So the question is, do we go back to growing cotton? But again, these biodegradable fibers or the natural fibers are also not the easiest to work with. So it's very, very, it's a very tricky one. But this is why we like connecting with people like Sonal. So even with our upcycling, which is what is still holding us afloat right now, we still cannot make products or turn every jean that we collect into a tote bag that the local market can produce. We have brands who are doing well with spinning their own yarn and fiber. We have a couple of them here in Kenya, but the question is, are they still also producing for people to just shop and wear their clothes, or are they shopping clothes that can survive for years? So are they offering mending services? Can people still bring back their clothes when they're spoiled, so someone can have that cloth for a very long time? All these systems and policies are still missing, but this is why I like connecting with people, because we still need designers to come and help us improve our upcycling. We need people who can work this machinery. My colleague Elma has been in Turkey, India. He has also been to Brussels looking for machines, but we don't know exactly what machine could work best for Kenya. Do we build our own machinery here, but we do not have that expertise here? So we're really trying to it's a puzzle, if I should say honestly. It's a puzzle, but it starts with us at least communicating and creating awareness as citizens that, hey, maybe you need to shop consciously and also dispose your old clothes better. And if you're a designer, design more considering the end of life of your product when the consumer.
Thank you.
I think Tone has a question.
No, I just wanted to say that I've been invited along with Professor Ingunn Grimstad-Klepp to Brussels by the Hot or Cool Institute, who are they're an organization based in Berlin who are actually speaking very much about sufficiency and have promoted that we in the global north should limit ourselves to buying 5 items of apparel a year. And they want input now to put forward to the EU specifically and their policies. And if any of you have a wish to have a say in what we are going to present in Brussels in November, I'd be very happy to hear from you, because it's a golden opportunity where I think they have invited some very special people to a conversation that will be about what policy can actually do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Tuna. Thank you. I think this is a conversation to have later on as well. Okay, Sonal, do you want to add anything before we close the panel? And I think Michael as well, probably. And I would like kindly to ask to the audience of not sharing too many emoji because we are recording this session. And secondly, please do not share for commercial purposes information in the chat, because this is not a commercial podcast. And therefore, I would appreciate if we can share just academic stuff and not commercial. Thank you. So please, Sonal.
Thank you, Natalie, for sharing. And of course, it's a huge concern that your country has to face all the throwaway textiles and garments of the world that the world doesn't need. It's really horrible. I would love to let you know that there are a few companies in India who are recycling a lot of fabric wastes or fabric garments, used garments as well. They collect used garments and then they make them into pulps and convert it into a new garment again. So if you could connect with me on LinkedIn, I would probably be able to share you some websites with some details. Maybe you could get an understanding of what kind of machines they're using and how that would probably you'll get some leads from there. We also have some traditional methods, like you saw the rug making. There is also various other traditional methods of using textile waste in India. Maybe we can connect on that as well. They used to make mattresses, fill the mattress cover with this instead of cotton or other materials or synthetic materials. They fill it with textile, cut the fabric in small pieces and fill it in. And of course, rugs is also another way of using it. Patchwork quilting is a lot of things that people do. So there are a lot of crafts also associated traditionally with leftover fabrics and extra fabrics. But I think your scale is much, much, much more larger. So probably you'll have to address it on multiple levels. Amazing work. Let's connect.
I'm happy to. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is wonderful. This is what I mean. You see, we connect the right people. That makes me happy, because we need to be united for a greater good. And if people of the caliber like Michael, Maria, Tuna, Liane are here today, that's already the answer. It means that, united we can do a great job, and then we can strive, for a better, not future, but present reality. So I don't know if anyone else of you ladies and Michael, please.
Very briefly, responding to Natalie and her call for finding alternatives and looking for sources of fiber, I want to shout out to the Regenerative Textile Development Institute in Kalifi at Pawana University. And they are engaged in working with farmers to collect farm waste and use that as a source material for developing new fiber. So that's a circular solution that doesn't require planting more cotton, but using available farm waste, agricultural waste, as a source. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I think I would call Lisa like my mentor, the leader of the owner of Regenerative Fashion. And yes, she's doing amazing. But I think we like to echo that as much as we need more like 10,000 acts in Kenya to counter the issue with the waste that we have, or we need like 5 regenerative fashion. Yeah, so we want to invite more people. We want to have more of these discussions. That's why I'm so thankful to you with this. Yeah. We need to connect more and see how we can discuss more.
We will, Natalie. And as I said, we need to get the word petitioning for a good cause like yours, like the lady from Norway. Sorry, I don't see her anymore.
Ragnhild.
From Ragnit, yes, Sonal. And I think today we achieved the scope. At least, we are making little steps towards a greater cause. Today we put together Africa, Norway, the US and India. So I think it has been a very, very successful meeting. And I want to thank all the guests who had the patience and put, your time, your personal time to be here today. It has been an honor, really, for me to host today Tune, Maria, Michael, Natalie, Sonal, and as always, the amazing Dr. Lien from the US. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for making this panel a great panel. This episode has been recorded, and I'm going to share with you all the details, when it's going to be published, where it's going to be published, and let's meet together again for the third episode of The Rise of the Global South. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.